Welcome back to the GC channel. I'm your host, Orlando Caceres, the president and founder of First Law International. If you're new with us, welcome. This is a channel especially for you, for the GCs and for in-house legal teams, and is powered by general counsels. We'll be covering today some of the trendiest topics, things that keep you up at night, and we hope that you will find the next few minutes invaluable and very insightful. So follow us along. This ties very nicely into this recent production that Irwin Mitchell just did with inclusion and people of all types of disabilities, or what we call now the differently able individuals. That was a very moving production. What was all that about?
So I think a couple of things as a headline point. Probably one of the things we are really well known for, and we're number one in our field in the UK, is our personal injury work. And what that does is it brings our business into contact with families and individuals who've gone through some fairly horrific, life-changing incidences. And that can be anything from, we work with terrorist victims, big incident victims, but also birth injury and injury that happens during life and has catastrophic effects that none of us ever envisaged living through in our lifetime. And I think that brings a compassion into the business that is real and it's palpable. And I work, as you know, Orlando, with business clients. So really, different from those clients. But actually that compassion is in all of our team at Irwin Mitchell. And I believe we all, as business leaders, business owners, working with businesses, we all have that compassion within us. And if we can pull that out, it makes us unique and it makes our experience of working with each other really great. So I think that's the first point. It's DNA here for us, that we are inclusive and that we understand and try to understand and learn from people who have these challenges in their lives. And we've always done some TV advertising because that is a really good market channel for our personal injury teams. And over the last few years, we've tried to expand that to a much more diverse audience perspective, because we work with businesses, as I've said, we work with private client individuals, and obviously then the injured clients. And we've seen actually through COVID that some of the larger corporations, Microsoft, for example, have started to advertise on the television for business and consumer audiences. So that move to being applicable to a wider audience has been something we've been really interested in testing out. And that's what the latest campaign seeks to do. So you'll see in that advert campaign, business clients in there talking about how they personally experience the time they spent with us as a firm. Private clients the same, injured clients. And then somebody, brilliant idea, absolutely can claim no credit for it, said, well, how about if we get a production cast together where everybody has some form of disability? And that's exactly what we did. So the photographer in that, in making that advert had a vision where it's literally a tiny pinprick of light that he can see through each eye. But if you look at the campaign, the photography is amazing. But everybody on that set had some kind of challenge or disability that makes them have different views on life, different perspective on life, and the richness of it was amazing. And I think you're probably talking about the film we made, of how the advert was made. It's actually more powerful than the advert.
Yes.
It's brought me to tears, absolutely brought me to tears. But I think it encapsulates who we are, and I don't think it's a thing at Irwin Mitchell. It's not something to tick the box on, and I'm doing a lot of ESG talking at the moment. And the S part of that is just live and palpable in the organisation. And I'm proud to lead the team that thought of that and just did an incredible job. So I think it just encapsulates who we are and what we're about.
That's incredible, and it does speak very loud, right? The film behind the scenes, as you said, is a lot more human because they're interviewing the cast of the performers, and you have a blind person, you have a deaf person, you have a wheelchair person, and they put this together, and it's no small feat. It's a very, very well done. In fact, the ones that appear to be the less able were the normal people. So anyway, but then I know that you've recently participated in a roundtable for ESG, and I know that's becoming now the talk of the town. the responsibility as a big law firm to be considered with the environment and social responsibility to, again, the less able and those that are facing hardship through COVID. And also governance, self-imposing restraints to overspending or spending, in areas that really bring no value to your staff or your future. Why did you make the time? And I know you're a very busy speaker and a number of things, but why was this panel of ESG so important to you personally?
I think there's two things to it. I think, first of all, every element of the ESG agenda is important. Obviously, the G element is something, as a lawyer, I've been familiar with and grown up with, and it's something we all just can't avoid. So it's here and it's here to stay, and increasing regulation will continue. The S, I think we've talked about a lot. For me, it's part of me. That inclusion, the diversity. I was a female managing partner at 41, and that was really unique within the profession. I wasn't the only one. I wasn't the first female, but I was in a very small minority. So bringing that diversity to boards, I was the first female board member at Irwin Mitchell. I think I recognize not the power that I bring, but the power that diversity brings to the board. So that's been true to me. And the environmental piece, I think where I'd put that in my own head is my interest is really piqued because of what my children are telling me and how passionate they are, which doesn't mean I'm not passionate about it. I think it's a really, really important topic. But thinking about the future generations and looking at some of the statistics around where the planet could get to, it's sobering as a thought. And I think that there is an obligation on us all, to do something about that. And there are things that we can do, and bringing that to the forefront, I think, is important. So I think all of that is why, for me, talking about those topics is important. But equally, the other point from my perspective is I really want to try to normalize this. I think people get frightened by, gosh, we must do something. ESG is here. What's everyone else doing? I'm not quite sure what I need to do. Not quite sure how to measure this. I don't know what we should be doing. How do we embed it in our strategy? Almost take a pause, find 2 or 3 things, focus on what's important to your business's purpose, to your life's purpose, and really focus down on that. Think about how you could measure that and prove that. And there's not it's not a race. We all have got some responsibility to be there, but we're all learning together on this. And the more we can collaborate, the more we can share our own vulnerability in this space, because no one's got it cracked. I think the more powerful we become as a force. And I think, just analogizing that to the FLI, Orlando, one of the things we've talked about is the diversity of law firm across the world that FLI brings together. The power is in the force of the whole rather than in the individual law firms. They're all brilliant in their own right. So again, that collaboration strength on topics like this that are emerging, I think is just really powerful. So anything I can do to facilitate the conversation and make people feel that it's an accessible topic rather than one that just feels enormous. I mean, it does feel enormous, but try and make it a little bit more accessible, then I'm delighted to do that.
It's interesting that you say that, there's a few factors here, right? There is the doomsdayers that are creating havoc for the younger generation. They're going through a lot of stress, just wondering what's going on in the future. It's very timely that you and I have in this interview when the world's leaders just met in Scotland trying to figure this out. And it was very startling to hear your prime minister sort of talk in terms of what each degree would impact the world. That was, I thought, very sobering. But what you're saying, again, is I keep hearing this echo throughout your interview that it's okay to talk about it, but let's normalize it. Let's bring some action to things that we can do. Let's not get lost in the despair of, oh my goodness, there's nothing I can do here. Pick 1, 2, or 3 things that you're passionate about. Take action. Bring those around you, network, and then you mentioned FLI, and of course we're gonna get into that. So as we look back, Vicky, at this point in time, history has been very busy in the last few years. What would you say are the lessons learned thus far as history evolves on Brexit? What in the context of your view of the world and how that's going to create opportunities and challenges for Irwin Mitchell?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we knew always along, right from the start, from the day that it was announced it was going to happen. As a lawyer, I could sit there objectively, regardless of my own opinion on it, and say, right, there will be opportunities coming out of this and there'll be challenges. So where are those opportunities? Let's think about those. And, going back to the ESG point, practically, what are the things that are going to hit our business and how do we mitigate that so that over the period of time, and we had a long time, didn't we? We had 5 years to get ourselves ready for this. Over that period, we make ourselves as ready for this as we can. I think there was also a little bit for me, and it's a very personal view and probably a bit contentious. There was a bit of Emperor's New Clothes, Millennium Bug, Y2K bug about it. It became enormous, and we must be ready and we must prepare. And then it all happened. I don't know whether it was because it happened during COVID, but it all felt a little bit, oh, right, yeah, Brexit just happened. I think we are now seeing the implications of some of that practically around supply chains, some of our, employee shortages. Certainly here in the UK, we are definitely seeing that. Whether that's a COVID impact, whether that's a Brexit impact, whether it's absolutely nothing to do with either of them or a combination of all of them, I can't tell you that. But there's no coincidence, I don't think, that we have engaged in a different set of trade relations, and we've got some challenges that are arising out of that. So I think opportunities were always going to be there. I think looking at it from an international point of view, the first thing I would say is it's caused us as a business, and certainly our international team, to think, okay, what are the opportunities for this? The government in the UK is negotiating trade deals across the world. We are forming alliances with countries which we've always had relationships with, but in a different way. We're looking at everything through a different lens. We're looking at our European neighbours through a different lens. And when we're doing that, what are the opportunities that can bring? So we're following the government's path through the different trade deals quite carefully, because as those trade deals get agreed and are active, there are opportunities for us on an international platform. And going again back to FLI, because of the breadth of the network of law firms across our community, everywhere the government is going on a trade deal, we will have friendly firms that we are able to engage with and start to talk about the opportunities that are arising out of that at the moment the world is talking about the UK and a particular country. I think post-COVID, COVID accelerated some of the globalization we were seeing anyway. Globalization was one of the comforts I had going into Brexit, that we're looking at a global platform rather than simply a European platform. We're just a different player on that platform. Now we're out of the European community. But I think we're seeing interesting relationships pop up between different countries as the globalization occurs and sort of nations get closer. And we've definitely just joined the Commonwealth Economic Advisory Council as one of their law firms. And we're interested in the Commonwealth as a network that can really work with us as a business, because it spans so much of the world, and our clients' activities, interests are going well beyond the European footplate, and we need to be able to respond internationally to that. So I think, in short, Brexit for us brought some of the things we expected. I think it hasn't probably been so far as challenging as I thought it might be. And I think actually where we've moved to quite quickly is looking at our relationships across the world rather than just within the European Union, to say where are the opportunities. And of course, with the networks that we're involved in and the community that FLI provides, I think we're really well placed to do that. So we're looking at it as a positive. That doesn't mean to say that businesses aren't being hit and frustrated by many things that may or may not be Brexit related, but likely are. And we're dealing with clients with those challenges all the time. So I'm not trying to underplay that, but I do think there are an equal amount of opportunities through this if we keep our minds open and we look at the world as a whole.
Well, thank you for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this one, subscribe to the channel and press the notification button below so that you will be alerted when new videos come out. We hope that you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to the next one. And don't forget, you heard it here first.